In private, do North Koreans actually believe what their government tells them? From anecdotes I've heard from alleged NK defectors, many of them know to some extent that the propaganda is BS, especially near the Chinese border where outside media is smuggled in. Of course, a lot of it is kept on the hush-hush. Most people either pretend to believe the propaganda or they convince themselves it's real. If all your life you were raised to believe that what is coming out of the radio speak is absolute truth, why would one think that it wasn't? It's the Plato's allegory of the cave, where you were conditioned to believe that your current reality is the only reality. Do the cows at industrial farms dream of grassy fields? Probably not, they don't know it exists. There isn't really such thing as private. Anyone they could confide with could potentially report them. Speaking what's on one's mind is a skill that they need to learn after escaping North Korea. Likewise, not thinking about what propaganda says is a very useful survival skill. Anything you say, including praise for the regime, can get interpreted in a manner that has horrific consequences. A lot of them probably do. It's easy to convince people of outrageous lies. Governments do it all the time. Any that don't aren't likely to speak out. Some of them do, some of them don't. Do or don't matter cause there's nothing they can do about it. Consider Russians, they had full access to Western media before 2022, and millions of them still completely bought into the propaganda. North Koreans have zero access to Western media, so it's even easier to control the populace. Yes, absolutely they do. Remember as a child, did you ever question your parents? Resistance groups, usually from the South, send a lot of information in via pirate broadcasts or have even tied leaflets to balloons. There are also contingents of the resistance groups living and operating in the North, but it's very dangerous and they try to target high-profile targets mainly. It's a mixture depending on how much of society any given individual in the country has access to, and how poor or isolated they end up living as a result of their family or occupation. Here's a pretty depressing book on the topic. HTTPS. In America, do Trump supporters actually believe what Trump tells them? Cognitive dissonance can do a lot, but it can't be that powerful that his supporters believe everything. There's a mix of beliefs. We don't know for certain without having someone from there speak on it, but many have only ever gotten the state-approved education, so they don't know any different. Most of them don't know anything except what Kim Jong-un and his party tell them, so yes, I would think millions of them would have big doubts, but it's not like they can do or even say anything about it. They know they aren't allowed to question. Probably a mix of people who genuinely believe it and people who go along with it because they are afraid. And everyone is afraid to ask anybody else what they really think. I don't think they have much of a choice. What would they compare it to? If you never had a cheeseburger or seen one, you don't know it even exists. You don't know what you're not told. This isn't something anyone can tell, but the closest we can get is what the defectors claim. At least sometimes. I've seen an alleged video of two relatively privileged North Korean men criticizing the government. There are tens of thousands of North Koreans who risked their lives to flee. It's hard to know what North Koreans think outside of deflectors, though. This isn't something anyone can tell, but the closest we can get is what the defectors claim. As an outsider trying to look in, you can never truly understand where those people are coming from. You can only try to place yourself in their shoes, and imagine. I started thinking about this on my walk to work yesterday. How do I know what's being fed to me from various sources in Western media is really what's going on in the world? For one people, there are those who this day and age I can communicate with within seconds on the other side of the world to verify information. But 30 years ago even, computers were still pricey, and smartphones are a novel thing. If I had the means, I can travel to these places to verify stuff. North Koreans don't have that luxury. If I were born into a system where questioning things could get you and your family killed, you can't leave or travel freely, I think I would naturally have a distrust for others. I think the best thing we can liken is to these cults that pop up. Even major religions. People who intentionally isolate themselves from facts to protect their faith. And the end result of these failed religious compounds tend to look shockingly similar to what's happening in NK.